When people first saw this man walking his pack of 6 German Shepherds without any leashes, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The blind obedience the dog showed left everyone amazed. Some even thought maybe he had forced the dogs into acting this way, but when the truth finally came out, it shocked and amazed everyone even more. The first time people spotted Augusto de Oliveira on the streets of Hyannis, Massachusetts, it was like something out of a movie. This young man in his early 20s was calmly walking a tight group of German Shepherds, all huddled closely together. Right away, you could tell the dogs were acting as one, showing amazing discipline and teamwork. And in the middle of it all stood Augusto, their proud owner, clearly respected as their leader. Seeing so much power paired with complete control was something people just couldn't get their heads around, and naturally, it drew a lot of stares and questions. The more people tried to figure out Augusto's secret, the more puzzled they became. Sure, lots of folks had dogs, but nobody could get them to behave like this man did with his pack. Even professional trainers and animal experts had a hard time explaining how these dogs moved so perfectly together without the usual commands and tools. When one brave onlooker decided to move a little closer to get a better look, they noticed something almost impossible to believe. None of the dogs had a leash on, yet they all moved like they were tied together, almost like a sled dog team. It was like they were connected by invisible ropes. Every dog knew exactly where it needed to be, following Augusto's voice alone. These dogs were so well trained, it was like watching a military unit. They didn't fight, they didn't get distracted by other dogs, and they didn't even glance at the barking dogs behind fences or being pulled along by other owners. Their eyes were only on their pack and their leader. Every day, as Augusto and his dogs took their walks around the streets and parks of Hyannis, people would stop and stare. Some were so amazed by what they saw, they'd ask if they could take a photo. Augusto would simply give one command, and the whole pack would freeze for the picture. As soon as the photo was taken, a quick whistle from Augusto had them back in line, each dog sliding right back into its exact spot behind him. Before long, Augusto and his amazing dogs were all anyone in town could talk about. Whispered conversations followed him everywhere, and not all of it was friendly. Some neighbors and onlookers even started to wonder if something darker was going on. People couldn't help but notice that Augusto didn't really spend time with anyone except his dogs. He seemed a little awkward whenever he had to deal with people. Hardly anyone ever came by this man's house, and it was clear he didn't have any close human friends. In the evenings, curious neighbors would sit outside his apartment for hours, trying to catch a glimpse through the curtains or overhear anything that might explain how such a quiet guy could control a bunch of strong German Shepherds so easily. Some even suspected he might be mistreating them to get that kind of obedience. A few went as far as digging through his trash, hoping to find proof. One neighbor, a particularly nosy woman who had spent most of her life rescuing stray animals, was convinced Augusto must be using electric shock collars on his dogs. She took it even further, gathering signatures from around the neighborhood to push for an official investigation into what she believed was an abusive situation. Honestly, Augusto might have been able to put all the rumors to rest if he had just opened up about his training methods. But whenever people asked, he stayed pretty tight-lipped. Without meaning to, his silence only made people more suspicious. When he did say anything, it was usually just that it had taken a lot of patience and dedication to get his dogs to walk without leashes. And to be fair, everyone knew he wasn't lying about that part. It was no secret Augusto had poured his whole life into becoming an expert dog trainer. He had grown up around German Shepherds, a breed famous for their bravery and loyalty. These dogs naturally want to protect what they love and would risk everything for their family. Anyone who watched Augusto's pack could see how deeply they cared for him. But that fierce loyalty was also what eventually pushed the authorities to get involved. Some people just couldn't believe that the dogs obeyed him out of love and respect alone. They were sure something darker had to be going on behind the scenes. If the suspicious neighbors had bothered to do a little more research, they could have saved everyone a lot of trouble. Even though Augusto lived in Massachusetts, he was originally from Brazil. Growing up on a farm there, he had been surrounded by German Shepherds from a young age. Right away, he showed a special talent for understanding and working with animals. He would spend long afternoons out among the dogs, almost without realizing he was training them just by the way he moved and spoke. When the police finally went into his apartment, they were stunned by what they found. Augusto and his dogs weren't living like a typical owner and pets. They were more like a true family. There were no cages, no kennels, and no pens. Dogs, Griffin, Harmony, Jenna, Priscilla, Hannah, and Savannah all slept right there with Augusto. They curled up on the bed with him, lounged on the couch, and sprawled across the carpet, wherever they felt like resting. It didn't take long to see that this man's life revolved completely around his dogs. Not finding anything suspicious, the police decided to bring in animal behavior experts. These professionals spent several days watching Augusto closely, checking out his home and studying every move he made. After a few days of careful observation, the investigators were ready with their report. The good news was that they found no signs of neglect or abuse among Augusto's German Shepherds. In fact, these dogs were living a dream life. While the police and animal rescue services appreciated the community looking out for animals, it turned out that this case was a complete false alarm. Augusto's dogs were treated like royalty, getting the best food, care, and love possible. He loved them like they were his own kids. Even though it hurt Augusto to know that people thought badly of him, he was able to pull something positive from the whole situation. Not long after the investigation ended, he managed to turn his passion into a full-time career. He opened the Griffin Shepherd Kennels, a place where he dedicated his skills to training dogs to be well-behaved and obedient companions. Dog owners would send their puppies to Augusto, and just a few weeks later, pick up calm, trained dogs that fit perfectly into their homes, even small apartments. Although he welcomed all breeds, German Shepherds remained his true specialty. Augusto kept the details of his training methods mostly private, but he did share one important thing. His dogs saw him as part of their pack. This bond didn't happen overnight. It was built through hours of daily care, feeding them twice a day, letting them sleep close to him, and making sure they had plenty of time to run and play. Through this, the dogs naturally accepted him as their leader. When dogs trust and understand their owner's body language and commands, you get the kind of unity and discipline that made Augusto and his pack so incredible to watch. Not only could Augusto guide his 6 German Shepherds untethered through busy streets, but he also claimed he could handle up to 15 unleashed dogs at once without any trouble. Recently, he even started taking his pack through the busy streets of Boston, and his dogs stayed just as disciplined, no matter how noisy or crowded it got. His unique way with dogs earned him an amazing reputation and turned him into a viral sensation back in 2013, when a video of him and his dogs took the internet by storm. Would you be brave enough to walk past a pack of unleashed German Shepherds on a busy street? What are your thoughts on Augusto's amazing training style? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more inspiring stories, and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.